Welcome to Fitzdog Radio. I'm very excited. A lot going on today. I've got an appointment at 4 o'clock. It's now 3:30. Jesus. To get my first tattoo. Going to a tattoo parlor in Venice Beach with, ready for this? The family. The whole family. My wife, my son, my daughter. We're all getting tattooed. And I think I talked about this on Sunday Papers, but the idea was my daughter turned 18. She's wanted a tattoo since she was about 12. And we made her promise she'd wait till she was 18. Well, not promise. You can't legally get one till you're 18. So we decided to all do it together. And we're going to get the Irish harp, which is a symbol of the fucking British occupation of Ireland and how we had to hide our harps. Because if you were caught with a traditional Irish instrument, you were thrown in jail and fucking tortured. You couldn't speak Gaelic, the Irish language, and you couldn't practice Catholicism. So now the harp is this great symbol. So we're gonna get it. I got a cool one. I found a nice photo of one online that I'm gonna get done, and I'm going to videotape it. I'm going to post something on Instagram. I'll shoot something while we're getting it done. And seems like something you should get drunk to do, but I don't drink. I don't know. I'm excited. Going camping tomorrow morning with the wife. We invited the kids. They didn't want to come. They'll probably throw a blowout party and our house will be destroyed. There'll be broken china, missing Emmy awards. Those are gone. Someone will steal those. Or impale somebody with them. I don't know. But my kids have never been left alone in the house while me and my wife went away. And he's 20 and she's 18. So I guess it's time. It's time to trust them. What can they do? What can they do? It's the worst that can happen. Thinking about picking up some shrooms for the trip. See if the wife is into that. It's a nice thing to do when you're camping. Maybe just a micro dose. Stare at the fire. If you're allowed to have a fire. I don't know what the rules are on camping and fires right now. I certainly don't want to start a blaze, but at the same time, a fistful of mushrooms and some fire sounds like a nice way to spend the weekend. I used to camp when the first time I camped, I was a teenager. I was probably like 14, and there was this group called the Explorers Club, and we used to go, and it was for kind of troubled teens as part of the Boy Scouts. But there was this scout leader who was like a hippie who used to have us go on these trips with him. And we go into the woods, and luckily there was like 2 or 3 kids that were real Boy Scouts, and they were in charge of actually making the fires and cooking the food. They were gung-ho, and the rest of us were there pretty much to take drugs and try to get laid in the woods. And so we went on these trips, and they were unbelievable. We'd make these massive bonfires and take mescaline and finger people. It was great. That's what camping's all about. I can remember once a fire got out of control, and we used our sleeping bags to put it out, and my sleeping bag got burned, and I slept kind of out in the open that night. I had half a sleeping bag. That's all that was left. And then the only other time I camped when I was young is me and my brother and sister. My family doesn't have their shit together. We're not the kind of family that had like real camping equipment or know-how or planning. And so me and my brother and sister, we were teenagers, and we got in the car. I guess we were old enough to drive, and we just drove. We heard there was a campsite that was up the Sawmill River Parkway, and we just drove to it. And it was like this shitty side of the highway campground. And we sat out drinking, and then we had blankets and this one shitty tent, but the tent didn't zip. And then these raccoons showed up, and we got freaked out. And so we slept in the car, and I vomited. So not a great history of camping in my life. but we've been on a bunch of trips with the kids. We got our shit together once we had kids, and we bought decent camping equipment from REI, and we stayed in some beautiful spots, Big Sur and Santa Barbara and different places up the coast. So we're going to go to, where are we going? Oh, Morro Bay, which is very pretty. It's up by San Luis Obispo. And do some hikes. Can't go in the water because when you have a fresh tattoo, you can't go in the water. So there'll be no swimming. But I guess a lot of hiking, and I don't know what else you do. I'll bring a book. Make sweet love to my wife in the great outdoors with probably another tent 6 to 12 feet away from me. Anyway, and I got a hemorrhoid. So, there's some physical restrictions here because I'm going to have to bring some witch hazel wipes for my ass and preparation H. And I'm not going to be washing the undercarriage as often as I would if I was home. With the hemorrhoid, you want to sit in a hot bath. Like I've been getting in the hot tub every day and trying to shrink it down because that's what you're supposed to do. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. I'd go more into my roid, but I want to save that for another podcast. It's big. Yeah, and it's right on the surface. We watched The Shining last night. The whole family went to this great new Mexican restaurant on Abbot Kinney. A little pricey. And we had a nice dinner, and then we came home and we watched The Shining. And we didn't start watching it until like 10 o'clock at night. And it's a 2.5-hour movie. You can watch the original before Stanley Kubrick cut it down to 2 hours. There's a 2-hour and 20-minute version, which has all these scenes I'd never seen before with Scatman Crothers, who I don't know if you know Scatman Crothers, but he was like, he was a musician originally, hence Scatman. But he was this great, beloved actor. If you were alive in the 70s and 80s watching TV, he was in Chico and the Man. He was the voice of Meadowlark Lemon in the Harlem Globetrotters. He was Hong Kong Phooey. Remember that? Hong Kong Phooey, #1 super guy. Do you remember that? Come on, people. Anyway, he plays the chef or the cook at the, and he's got a much bigger part in the uncut version. But I just went down a rabbit hole today reading stuff about the making of the movie. First of all, I was very curious about the kid in the movie who's named Dan Lloyd. And there was all these conspiracy theories about how he had a nervous breakdown because he was only 5 when he did the movie. Not true. He did the movie at 5. He was told that it was a drama. He never knew it was a horror movie. He was not freaked out when he finally saw it. I think he finally saw it when he was like 13. Was not freaked out. He tried to continue acting, and he just got no work. And so at the age of 14, he retired and moved back to the Midwest. He ended up going to college. He was a pig farmer for a while. He worked at Walmart, and now he's a community college professor with 6 kids in fucking Kentucky. So to me, that's a happy ending. What a cool thing to be able to like show your kids someday. Here was your dad when he was fucking 5 in a Stanley Kubrick movie with Jack Nicholson as his fucking father. Come on. Shelley Duvall, who is so quirky, so weird looking, and so fucking talented. You can't not look at her. She did all these great movies with Robert Altman, and she's had quite a career. But no role was as perfect as this. Well, maybe Olive Oil. She played Olive Oil in the Popeye movie, and she was kind of perfect in that. But Shelley Duvall was worked to death. I think to the point of a nervous breakdown. Her hair started falling out, and she would show Kubrick the clumps of hair because like he made her do 127 takes of this one scene where she's waving a baseball bat at Jack Nicholson. It's like the most intense scene in the movie, and he made her do it 127 times because he was trying to wear her down because that's the performance he wanted from her. And they had a very bad relationship. It was she called it unbearable, and he just kept antagonizing her. But Nicholson didn't feel the same way. He loved Kubrick. He loved working with him. But he said that he could see what he was doing to Shelley, and that it seemed kind of fucked up. So the kids loved seeing it. They had seen, when we were in Oregon, we took them to it's called the Timberline Lodge. It's in Mount Hood, and it's not far from Portland. And we took them there, and we did a tour of the hotel, and we're like, holy shit, it's that fucking hotel. And the room the haunted room in the hotel is room 237, which doesn't exist in the hotel. In the book, it was room 217, but he switched it because he didn't want to ruin that room for the hotel. And he figured people wouldn't want to stay there. Just the opposite. Everybody checks into that hotel. Everybody wants room 237. And they have to tell them there is no room 237. And then the conspiracy theories started because people who don't believe there was a moon landing think that the one that they faked and shot was directed by Kubrick. That's what they believe. And that the reason it was room 237 is that the moon is 237,000 miles from Earth. There you go. There's one for the conspiracy theorists. That's a pretty good one. Anyway. All right, I got to keep things moving. Our sponsor today are the fine folks at Roman. If you have issues, how's your penis? How is your penis, guys? Is it doing good? Is it rock hard? Is it doing everything you need it to do? If not, then it's a very simple fix. Roman, go to getroman.com/Fitzdog now. And what you can do is you get $15 off your first month dealing with your ED, your erectile dysfunction. That sounds like it's not a disease. It's just a condition. It's something that can get in your head. And once it's in your head, you might have a hard time getting a boner. And so you take this pill, and all of a sudden you get the boner, and then you don't have to take the pill forever. It'll just get you back in your sweet spot again. You get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all in the comfort of your own home. A U.S. licensed healthcare professional will help with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, it ships to you free with 2-day shipping. 2 days later, you're in the sack, making it happen. Whole process is straightforward and discreet. Getting started is simple. Go to getroman.com/Fitzdog and complete an online visit. Again, don't leave your house. No sitting in an awkward waiting room. It's just real simple. Go to getroman.com/Fitzdog now. You'll get $15 off your first month. It's time to take care of your ED. And remember, get started today. You'll save $15 on your first order of ED treatment. All right, do it, guys. Give it a shot. I think you'll be happy. Dates coming up, August 6th and 7th. I will be at Bananas in Rutherford, New Jersey. That's going to be fun. Get your tickets now at fitzdog.com. Also, I will be in Golden, Colorado, outside of Denver, at Buffalo Rose. That's August 26th through the 28th. And then Sacramento Punchline, September 16th through the 18th. All tickets at fitzdog.com. Come on out and see some live comedy. Don't forget, support the show by getting the premium membership. Go back. I've got like 850, 900, maybe 900 episodes, maybe more than 900 episodes. Going back, guests like Zach Galifianakis and Sarah Silverman and Jimmy Kimmel and Carl Reiner and Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. It goes on and on. Check those out for just $19 a year. And you support the show. It's a nice thing to do to keep the show going. Pay for the producers, the editors, all the people that make the show possible. And that's it. All right, my guest today is a good friend from New York who is one of the most talented. She's a fucking workhorse. She's on the road headlining A-rooms. She's in New York City playing all the coolest rooms. She's got like 3 specials on Comedy Central. She did her most recent one, Amy Schumer Presents Rachel Feinstein. not Steen, Stein. Only Whores Wear Purple. She was in the Steven Soderbergh Amazon series Red Oaks. She was in Crashing, which I worked on with her a bunch of times. She did a bunch of appearances. She was in Trainwreck, Larry Wilmore's show, John Oliver's show, The View. She co-hosted The View a few times. And she co-hosted alongside Shaquille O'Neal on Upload with Shaq. So she's great. We had a great time talking via Zoom. And you're going to see that now. Please enjoy Rachel Feinstein. Welcome. Rachel Feinstein is my guest. She sits glowing in a domestic scene of bliss. There's a refrigerator in the background with a lot of magnets on it.
I just cleaned all the filth out of the background. There was just a lot of debris, heinous debris. Yeah. And Greg saw the lie that I'm living in. And now I presented a fun-loving version of myself.
Yeah, she had on this Who Farted sweatshirt. There was a couple of half-naked black guys in the background. Why did it have to be black guys? Why did I have to say black?
Well, when I'm in the mood to have a train ran on me. Well, why did you have to say that?
Well, it is weird. The things that now I'm so sensitive about, like people used to say like black cock, like comedians. We would say that on stage all the time. And now all of a sudden, like you start catching yourself saying things that maybe you shouldn't say anymore. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm constantly thinking half the stuff that comes out of my mouth is disgraceful and completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
Even when I'm at like the park with my daughter, I'm taking big swing. I realize I'm not okay anymore. The way I communicate it's not going to work.
It's not going to work for now. I really think this is a passing phase. I think we'll be able to say cunt and chink and all these fun words again soon. But for now, don't say chink.
Or for now, we're just in a timeout.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know I have to learn. I can't read the room at all. I'm saying disgraceful things everywhere. I'm just going rogue. And it's not good. I'm learning slowly.
Have you been called on anything?
Like little things, but on Twitter and stuff, people will drudge up like old shameful material I have.
Really?
Just like even the joke itself will be embarrassing. Just like some dumb thing that I thought was funny. Yeah. So I've gotten like little bits. And I had a joke about porn that I'm like, wasn't a creative joke and I'm actively ashamed of it for other reasons. But somebody mentioned that I didn't use like inclusive language in the porn. And then there was actually a porn actress that said that, I'm not including enough like big women in the story. And I was like basically she said I wasn't embracing curvy women in their porn stories and that they get like repressed. And I'm like, it was a story about a specific porn I watched called The Whore and Her Blind Sister. And it had nothing, it didn't happen to have any curvy women involved in it.
Wait, you were involved in the handicaps, or should we say?
Yes, there was a point where the guy's trying to like, he leaves and then he says, hey, listen to his friend, can you just take care of my blind sister? She has trouble in the kitchen. And so then she's batting around in the kitchen. She can't even open a drawer, which is ridiculous. Like, of course she would be able to open drawers at that point. She's just banging into things. And then she meets with the brother's cock instead. And then all sorts of wackiness ensues. And I had some story about that porn. And this woman let me know that, I wasn't including curvy women and uplifting them in porn. And then but the greatest thing was the next tweet after she told me that was just her kind of like she had her ass out and she was sort of spanking herself. And she said, hey boys, want to come play with my big butt or something. And then there was a lot of kind of trash and debris in the background. I thought we do have a lot in common because she also has like Daffy's bags in her room and stuff.
It's the details.
Too bad we couldn't have caught a wave together.
It's the details that get you across the finish line when you're a guy. It's the Daffy's bag. It's the chip clip on it's the domestic stuff.
you're friends with a lot of, you're a very inclusive person. You're friends with gay people and big women, cross-dressers, trans.
Yeah. I figure let God punish them. It's not my place. That's between them and God. It's just like between them and God's business. Yeah. It's not mine. If they want to go to hell, that's between them and God and Jesus.
That's right. There's a lot of confessing that's going to happen. And now you grew up, like, I think you were telling me once your dad was a civil rights lawyer.
Yeah, he was a prosecutor for the Department of Justice for the Civil Rights Division. So he prosecuted a lot of KKK cases. And
no shit.
Yeah, he would go down south, him and it was a Jewish guy and his black partner. And they would go down to these towns where in the 70s that, there was still a lot of Brown versus Board of Education had been passed, but a lot of these, they weren't really enforcing it. A lot of places were really still pretty segregated in the 70s. So he would go down there and they would go into these schools and they would ask them for their documents and make sure they were properly integrated.
Wow. No shit.
Yeah. And make sure that they were like actually enforcing these laws. And he would stay under like pseudonyms and stuff. He would stay under fake names. And it was pretty wild how
you don't want to stay in a Motel 6 in Alabama with Feinstein in the registry.
Yeah, you wouldn't think. He said he was like at a store once. This guy was like, "You gonna zoom down that price or what, Feinstein? I know you're in town. I know what you're here for." And it was like a hardware store or something. He's like, "I know you're here to just Jew us all down." He also, I actually was in the South once, and this guy said to me, he was driving me back to the airport after a gig, and he goes, I've been to New York City once, and then he goes, it was crawling with Jews. He said it like it was the most terrifying campfire story that had ever been told, at like 5 a.m. airport ride. And he goes, they was all out celebrating their holiday, Rosh Hashanah. In the streets. That was his story. He's like, I drove a tractor through New York. First of all, why? There's like a supply and demand issue with that activity.
Yeah.
Driving a tractor through New York City. But
I love your dad and his black partner. It sounds like a 70s movie where, they show up in a Ford LTD and they slap the siren on top of it as they pull up to the schoolyard.
One plays by the rules. One does things his way. One cuts some ribbons.
That's
they
right.
Probably got in a fist fight at some point and then, made up again. And
yeah.
A lot of long silences.
Yeah, and they're both sleeping with each other's wives, and they never find out till the end of the movie.
Wouldn't that be a better porn?
So
he was a civil rights lawyer, and now he teaches civil rights, and he's a blues musician full time. He plays like piano, zydeco, accordion, harmonica. He plays all by ear. He's a really exceptional musician.
Damn, a blues musician and a civil rights lawyer. He loves black people.
And my mom she majored in African history with a minor in Black studies. And
no.
Yes. And she's a, social worker. She's always at like some sort of action picnic, like just outside with a sign about diversity. I had to text you this thing she sent me recently. She was just outside saying like, I support diversity. Ask me how you can help or something. And it's just her and some kind of reluctant looking Hispanic guy that works with her standing outside. And she's like in some sort of action forward lunge.
Yeah.
Ready to uphold diversity. She was crying on Zoom when she figured out like what Karen meant.
Yeah.
She was like, I've been on the front lines of fighting racism only to find out this bullshit, Rachel.
Her name's not Karen, is it?
It is. Yes.
No. No. That's such a bummer.
She was weeping about it on Zoom, and I was trying to tape her in my voice memos.
Oh, my God. So she's an outspoken white woman, and her name is Karen. But she's the good Karen.
She is, yes.
Karening for the right side all the time.
She's like, this is some bullshit. And then she was going to change it. She goes, I talked about it on stage, but she was like, I was going to change it to something more inclusive from the African diaspora. But your brother says that's appropriation, so I'm screwed. She was like frantic. She wanted to change her name, but I don't know what, like Kenya or something. And my brother was like, no, you can't. You got to just keep it Karen.
How disappointed were your parents when you guys were born white?
They were sad. There was a low-grade depression in the house in the early years, and I think that's what it stemmed from.
Yeah. Did they give you perms? And no, I'm not going to go any further with that.
My mom has said before, I mean, yeah, she definitely didn't expect me to marry like an Irish Catholic firefighter. She would have preferred if I married a Nigerian lesbian. I do think that's true. Yeah.
Did they ever consider adopting a Black child?
Actually, that's really funny that you asked me that because, so there was this kid that went to, I think it was maybe Duke Ellington at some sort of jazz music school in DC. And my dad's secretary was this boy's mother. And she complained that he was an incredible piano player, but that he didn't have enough like kind of soulfulness in his playing. He was very by the book, this kid, this, younger Black teenager. So, and it was her son's friend. That's right. Her son's friend. And she said, he's an exceptional musician, but he just plays, too tightly. And so basically she said, he lives at this group home in DC. And if you could just take him out and show him how, because my dad plays only by ear and he can't read music, just kind of basically how to have a little more soul, Howie Feinstein. So he would go pick him up and give him these piano lessons and teach him kind of the old New Orleans style tricks or whatever. Wow. And he was getting bussed out to Bethesda, Maryland for soul lessons. And then my mom later, when she was a little drunk, I think she had like one slide and shit really hits the fan with Karen. She was like, the truth is I always wanted to adopt Daryl, but your father said it was too late. And I'm like, he was like 17. It's kind of a wrap. She goes, well, I thought at least for the final years he could have joined the Feinsteins. She said, I put out feelers and stuff, but I don't think there was a lot of interest. I'm like, no, it was done. Yeah, he was going to go to college. But my mom had still, I guess she carried that. That was like part of her burden that she was coming up when she was drunk.
That could have been your blindside moment, and then the kid becomes a famous musician and you get all the credit for having raised him, even though you just grabbed him in the third trimester. That's great. Oh my God. Oh yeah. They're a lot. They're intense. And my husband's family and her, they're just complete opposite. His family's all like, like libertarians, that they want the government off this shit or whatever. Yeah. Is libertarian code word for Republican? Sort of. I mean, like my husband's not a Republican, like he didn't vote for Trump or anything, but like their family is, or maybe it's like not caring as much or something. A lot of times it is code for Republican, but I feel like they don't, their whole thing is like the government's on their way over to take your shit. All right. So it's all about taxes. I don't know how many of them actually vote. Right. Yeah. Whereas my family, they're all like civic activists, Yeah. And, my husband doesn't like Trump, but he like sells Bitcoin. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They all love crypto firemen. Tell them to get the fuck out of that crypto. That shit is going to go down like a tenement building in the South Bronx. I can't. I know. And they have to come over and buy it from him. And I thought like the whole point of crypto was that Vinny does not have to come over in a fucking yellow face. Right. That's the opposite of a Bitcoin exchange. So why is he the only one that knows how to do it? So they all use him as like a broker? Yes, he like mines Bitcoin. I don't even know what it is. They all have, the other cryptos have the most boring names. It's like Ethereum. It's a kind of name that sounds like Ethereum, like a refrigerator company or something. They all sound like industrial cleaning supplies. Right. Like I used to try to, whenever people would ask me what I did on a plane, I would say I sold industrial cleaners because it's like the most boring thing you could ever do. Yeah. And I was just thinking I could get more specific with that. Be like, I sell Ethereum, but not anymore. But it sounds like it. It really does. It sounds like they're just the most boring words. And he's tried to explain it to me so many times. And I feel so sad when he talks about it. Please tell me he's not putting your life savings in that stuff. No, I mean, luckily, like, I think he has a little bit of money that he makes from his condo that he plays with crypto, but he could be. I mean, we could be about to go under. I have no information, actually. Well, you live in New York City, so there's probably not a lot of extra money at the end of the month to put into Bitcoin anyway.
Yeah, he can only do so much damage.
Where do you guys live?
We live in Greenpoint.
Okay.
Yeah, so we live and we're looking for like a house now. If I think in like maybe Forest Hills or something like that. So yeah, we'll see. But I like Greenpoint. I like living in New York still.
Yeah, we were there when we were doing Crashing. That's where the studio was. So we spent a lot of time in Greenpoint.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool area.
Yeah, it's great. And there's it's not crushed. There's like some open space, and it's a good place. There's some parks along the river there, right?
Yes, there's like a lot of lovely parks and stuff like that. And he takes my daughter to this park near here a lot. And I don't know, I get kind of bored in parks though. Like I always feel like when women are pushing a swing, they look like they need to be like rescued. There's just a sadness to that. Kind of a lobotomized activity pushing a swing. You know? He's better about taking her to parks. I'm like I've never really cared for parks. I like a beach, but a park.
Yeah. Yeah. Attell used to have this bit about if there was a commercial for Jägermeister, and it would just be a kid sitting alone on a swing, and it would just go, Jaeger. He's just a sad kid with no parent.
He's just the best, Jaeger. He's the fucking funniest.
Wait, so
yeah.
So so you guys are living in Greenpoint, and then where is he stationed?
He bounces around. They call it like a bouncing captain, because when you get promoted to captain, sometimes there's only a certain amount of captain positions. So he doesn't have like one firehouse. He works in Brooklyn, but he might be at one place for a while and then jump around. And he's going to be a chief soon. So
oh, wow.
And when he's a chief, probably he'll be a chief in Queens, because they call it put in. Like,
yeah.
He's on a list. So he passes the exam, and then he is waiting to be formally promoted. It has to do with like the amount of years you have on, and all that kind of stuff, like your score, and also like your years on the job.
Right. Wow.
So that was all like slowed down with COVID. Like the promotions were slowed down, but in the next year or two, he'll be a chief, and that'll be a little safer because they don't go into the fires quite as much when they're chiefs. So, but yeah.
How often does he go into a fire?
He went into one the other day. They love it. I mean, they hate missing fires. Yeah, there's a competition about it, and yeah. And then they say like so and so fucking stole it. Here's a sentence I actually heard said. They'd be like, he was like, not Pete, another firefighter they all have the same accent. He was like, in Manhattan, they don't steal your fucking jobs. They're fucking gentlemen. Out here in Brooklyn, it's fucking any man's game. These guys will fucking steal our job. Nice fucking 1075, beautiful fucking fire. Third alarm, should have been us. They should have read the ticket. Read the fucking ticket. That was us. They fucking boxed us out of our fucking job. And that it wouldn't have. So in this system, the gentleman is the guy that doesn't go into the fire first. Because that was their job. You didn't read the fucking ticket.
They're like cabbies in the 1950s at JFK.
Exactly. That's what it's like. And then he's like, yeah, they'll fucking steal your fucking job. Read the fucking ticket. That was our box.
That was our box.
And when he was studying to be a chief, he would play these like cheap tapes, right? Greg, I was crying listening to this. I was like, this is what you've been studying? Because he has headphones on, and you study for years. It's like building codes. And I just thought it was like the most boring, really specific stuff about how buildings are, different classes of buildings and stuff, and codes. And some of it is, but I had no idea he was going to listen to this fire lecture once a month. And I just figured it was, some boring, sterile lecture. He played it without the headphones once. I was fucking crying. I mean, it was amazing. Yeah. This guy, these characters, like these fucking salty New York, they're incredible. So I'm just listening to the lecture. He's like, here's what you fucking do. This is the guy, the chief that's leading the lecture. He's like, whenever you fucking get to a fire and animal fucking control is there, don't touch the fucking dog. That's animal control. That's not a fucking jurisdiction. Leave that fucking dog alone. He goes, you see a woman holding a fucking dog, you say, ma'am, I'm sorry about your fucking dog. Nice compassion there. That's AC. That's their fucking shit, all right? God forbid you don't fucking do it by the book. Fucking de Blasio is shit, all right? Just say, I'm sorry about your dog, and that's it. I was like, this is fucking incredible. And then all of a sudden I heard him like chewing. I was like, what is he snacking on? You could hear him loudly chewing. And Pete was like, Domenico, he usually has cannolis. I was like, no, this is impossible. He eats cannolis during the lecture because, yeah, he just stands there, kind of has cannolis his wife makes him for him. I was like, this is heaven. The lectures are fascinating.
Oh, you got to release those. Those are amazing.
It's a crazy world. Yeah, it's fascinating.
I had a friend who was from Ireland, from Belfast, Northern Ireland. So
we went there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's great. He comes to this country, and of course his dream as an Irishman is to become a fireman. So sure. He's in the South Bronx, and 48th precinct, I think it was, and it was like, they would go to fires and people would throw shit at them from rooftops because they were in a uniform.
Oh my God.
Like literally they would get harassed for putting out a fire while they were there. And then he took a leave of absence for a month and he went away and he missed September 11th. And, which I was thankful for because God knows what could have happened to him. But he was so devastated. Like he never got over the fact that he missed out on being there that day,
So fascinating. Yeah, they don't want to, there's terrible, terrible survivor's guilt, I guess.
Right.
So what year did they would throw shit at you? That's crazy.
Yeah. They would, they said they would have one guy that would just stand lookout for people that were throwing shit off buildings.
Oh
that never happened? That never happened to your husband?
No, he hasn't told me
that. Bronx thing.
Maybe it's a Bronx thing. He tells me that a lot of fires are started by they call them Collier's mansions, like hoarders, that have a lot of stuff.
Oh, really?
So, a lot of crap. So he will complain about that sometimes, but then, it's a double-edged sword because he gets to go to the fire. But he's like, yeah, they deal with a lot of hoarders. And I guess a lot of fires get started by space heaters and stuff. He'll always point out to me, you can't do that. That'll start a fire. But then he'll light a candle by putting a match to a paper towel. And I'm like, and then he'll take the paper towel and light the candle. I'm like, why did you just do that? That's wildly hazardous,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's more interesting that way. So they do love.
They love fire. It's like,
and I guess they're also fire cocky. He's like, he's like, well, he's like, I get the can. That's what they call the fire extinguisher. I read the can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect night for you guys as a candlelit dinner because it's romantic for you and he's a pyromaniac.
Exactly. Oh, is your wife in the normal world? You're with a real person.
Yeah,
right?
I'm with a real person. Well, she was a stay-at-home mom for probably 16 years. And then she started working 2 years ago she got certified as a post-natal doula. So wow. She is, so she's working with women that have just had babies. And so she also works part-time in a podiatrist's office. And he's a podiatrist to the stars. So I get to hear about which stars have fucked up feet. Who's got a bunion. And I'll tell you off the air, I got some great stories off the air, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. And it kills me.
Do you have a foot fetish? Do you have a foot fetish? Why do you think you have a foot fetish?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a foot. It's not a fetish. I have an appreciation for a nice pair of feet.
Sure.
In the same way that it really isn't much more than if somebody has a beautiful face or some nice cleavage. It's not I don't want to fuck your face because you have a nice face. But when I see the feet and I go, wow, those are can I say Asian feet are my favorite?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see.
They're just always very,
clean.
Yeah.
Right. Does your wife have nice dogs?
They're very nice. They're very nice. Yeah. I mean,
but when you started dating her, were you kind of waiting to catch a glimpse, or is it in the back of your mind, or are you just kind of waiting till she unveils those dogs?
Second date, she wore sandals. We went across the Brooklyn Bridge on bicycles, and she wore a sundress with sandals. And I got a good look at the feet. But I had already decided I was going to marry her the first time I met her. So
if she unveiled like a gangrenous pair of dogs, do you think that would have changed your plan?
No. Nope.
Really? Oh, that's definitely sweet. How did you know? She just had this energy that I had never been around before. I had never been around somebody like she grew up on the Upper West Side. She's half Jewish, half Irish. But she's a Jew because she grew up in like the most Jewish fucking place in the world. Oh, I didn't know that. I always thought she was Irish Catholic. She is a very calming person. I met her very briefly, but she's a lovely, calm, like a deep calm.
Exactly. That's what I felt. And I was like, and I felt like, here's this person who's so beautiful and she's so like, I don't know. I just thought it was cool that she grew up on the Upper West Side. And I thought that she was kind of worldly and, she worked for Julia Roberts at the time. And I just thought like, this is like the perfect woman. And then that energy on top of it. And I said to a friend, I go, I'm going to marry your friend someday. And we were at the Friars Club in New York. Yeah. Wow. We were at the Friars Club. It was my friend Sarah Fearon, who you probably don't know, but she was like a comedic sketch actress, stand-up comic. And I introduced her as a member to the club. And so they have are you a friar?
No, I don't think I am. But
you're crazy. Join the Friars Club. It's the fucking greatest thing in New York.
What do you do there exactly? I want to get involved. I just never really got around to it. Nobody asked me.
I'll get you in. You go there, you have lunch in the dining room, and there's all these other comedians, these old-time Borscht Belt comics. They're the funniest guys. They're so warm. They're so happy you're there. And then they have a billiards room upstairs. You shoot pool. They got a great health club you work out at.
Ooh, and I could go and like work there if I needed a quiet place to work.
Yep. You go in the Milton Berle room. Milton Berle room's got tables and chairs.
Wow, that's actually a great idea. Yeah.
And then it's got like the best steam room in the city. It's got a card room. I don't know if you play cards, but they have a card game going. Barbershop. Fucking. Wow. And then the Joey Lewis cocktail lounge where you can meet somebody for a drink. It's just, and it's the best place.
Can I get a blowout? Is it just barbershops or will somebody like?
No, they'll blow you out. Yeah.
Wow. I'm in.
Yeah. Anyway, so I bring her, I bring my friend to have her join. They have a little ceremony where they teach you the handshake and all that shit. And she brought Erin with her. And so I saw her and I said, I'm going to marry her. And then 3 years later, I proposed in the Milton Berle room. I proposed to her.
Oh my God. You're really romantic. You're a romantic guy. She must have loved that.
Then we walked down to, we went to the Trois Canards, this French restaurant that she likes. And then we went to a Broadway show. And then we went to the St. Regis Hotel, to the King Cole room where we met all of her friends for a drink so we could tell them. And then we went on a carriage ride through Central Park and it was snowing out.
Holy shit.
Threw a move on her in the cart. She shot me down.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you do? You like that more though, didn't you?
Well, they had a blanket and I just felt like, at least a handy, but then you think a handy is kind of sleazy for a night like that. You really want to make love in the cart.
That is hilarious that you thought that you were searching for a handy after that romantic word.
I know.
Why would that follow it up?
I know.
I was just like that is like the most romantic story. I'm just like, God, every woman deserves that. Like I should have gotten that. Then I heard the handy part. It kind of leveled it out a bit. Is she romantic or are you the romantic one?
No, she's not romantic. She likes romance, but she doesn't initiate romance.
Yeah.
She's like, she's very nuts and bolts. She's a fucking New York City Jew. It's just more about like, kvetching about what's in the paper and politics and, Seinfeldian breaking down of every noticeable thing in detail.
it's funny that she does that, but yet also there is this deep calm to her. So she could be like, it's almost like she approaches it kind of like just a story about neuroses that she doesn't necessarily suffer from, like she describes. Yeah, you could, because she definitely has this very gentle, ethereal quality. I like to kind of pretend I'm like that, like on my first date, like that's the costume I wear. And then in like 20 minutes, they figure out that, I'm just another animal. But she is like how I would want to appear to men before they knew the truth shortly. What was your proposal? What was your marriage proposal? We were actually in this really crowded restaurant and on Monty's on McDougal, and my friend asked me if I would meet her there after my show for dinner. She set us up. And I knew right away that was weird because she wouldn't ask that. I knew he was going to propose to her. So I called him and I was like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, he was bitching about some paint on the wall that wasn't drying properly. So I was like, oh, there's no way he's going to do it tonight. He's literally talking about the most boring subject known to man. He's like, this paint is fucking just sticking in the same damn spots. He's like, he just keeps clumping up there. So I like soothed him about the paint. I was like, all right, so that's not what it's about. So, but he was in an argument with the wall. He'll start a project, and then for the next 2 weeks, I just have to stay away from him and this drywall patch that he's having some like deep issues with. So I was just like, there's no way it would happen tonight. But it was happening that night. He just was pissed about the paint in the wall. There's no mystery with it. You know what I mean? He says what he's thinking. Right. That's refreshing. So then I went and I sat down at the restaurant and waited for, I was like, I guess it's probably some, he's not going to be him because he's upset about the paint. And my friend's actually meeting me. And then she wasn't coming in. And then all of a sudden he comes in with this puffy coat in the middle of the winter. And he's like an introvert, so it's like trying to squeeze between people. But it's New York, so everybody's commenting on the whole thing. So I think he thought it was going to be a private, lovely, romantic scene. So he gets down on one knee and this woman goes, it's a proposal. He's proposing. Everybody turns around and he's like, bright red. And they talk about the whole thing as it's happening. He gets down. He's like, you make me happy, man. Will you make me a happy husband? And this woman's like, that was nice because it was to the point. It was simple. There was something sweet about it because it was simple, And then this other woman goes, what's your name, dear? I'll tell my daughter. She's on Facebook. And then I said, it's Rachel Feinstein. She goes, oh, is he Jewish? And I was like, no. She goes, oh, I go, he's a fireman. Then she goes, oh, thank you for your service. There was like 18 people involved in all of this immediately. Like we never ate or had a moment after that. Yeah. This one woman goes, you should take my lemon chicken recipe. It saved my marriage. And I'm like, what was happening in your marriage that took a lemon chicken recipe to save it? What cocktail of things were going wrong that all it took was just a quick lemon chicken and things were back to work again? She goes, yes, you got to do the lemon chicken. It changes everything. And they just kind of, they were taking pictures with us. They were asking him questions. We didn't really eat. We just were talking to the restaurant, Yeah. And then at one point when he opened the ring, I took it right out. I didn't do it like a true pig. It didn't occur to me that I should wait for him to put it in my finger. I was just like, I'll take that. Popped it on my own finger. I was like, just to you pull out one of those eyepieces. You start like. It's funny because I used to take all these pictures, like, because I thought it was funny of like, women holding up their rocks or whatever, because it's just such a disgusting kind of thing to do. So whenever a guy would be like asleep at a bar or just a particularly worthless man, just kind of, where you're so drunk, you're sort of wet. I would always perch myself on him and be like, got him, so I had a lot of those pictures. Oh, that's hilarious. So it was kind of fun because I've had a collection throughout the years. The most disgraceful guy I see, I like to just kind of bring myself like, sorry, ladies. Yeah, so I dated a guy once that was like, he hated that. Like he would get very upset about the proposal pictures. He's like, it's disrespectful to me that you take all these proposal pictures or whatever, but my husband didn't really care. He's not jealous. Like if I was missing, I often ask like how long it would take for him to look for me. I feel like he'd give it at least 2 or 3 days before he put feelers out. But yeah, it was. But I did feel that same feeling. Like a feeling of like comfort on the first date, you know?
Right.
It was like an ease that people had described. I never believed in that. I was like, what do you mean an ease? So I was like, I don't know about that. I'm not one to feel a sudden ease. That's not usually the trajectory of my life, but I felt it. I was like, oh yeah, that feeling.
Yeah.
I told my friend the same thing. I was like, I'm going to marry that firefighter. She's like, backdraft? Because that's what all my friends called him. They just like were like, oh, you know. Like Schumer at our wedding, she gave a toast in front of all of his family, and his mom is very like conservative and, you know, proper. She was like, when Rachel first met Pete, we just thought, when we called him backdraft, we just thought like, you know, is this fireman going to just finger her? And like figured he'd just be out of the picture after he fingered her. But then she just kept backdraft around. So she's like, backdraft? And I'm like, yeah, backdraft. I feel like I'm going to marry her.
Oh, that's hilarious. You must have known when she was going to give the toast at your wedding that it was going to be something that would make you uncomfortable.
Oh, I knew I couldn't make eye contact with his mother. And his mom was worried about things at the wedding. Like she wanted the place cards to be like, you know, Mr. Michael Brennan, Mr. and Mrs. Michael Brennan. I was like, oh, she was very worried about that. I'm like, oh, there's going to be a lot of other shoes are going to drop here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know, it was like Sherrod and, you know, and like Tom, Papa and Colin gave a speech. So I was like, and I knew Amy was going to come up, but God knows what the fuck she was going to say. So I was just, when she was worried about the place cards, I was like, I'm just going to have to steer clear of her because.
Yeah, pick your battles. Pick your battles. You take the cards, I'll take the filthiest comics in New York on your son for about an hour.
I mean, people said insane things during the toast. Like and they were all just trashing me like a lot, you know. So it was, I felt like I was pretending to be a sweet girl until that wedding. And everybody just found out. Yeah, nobody spoke of the things they found out. But
who else gave a toast besides Amy?
So it was Amy, I guess it was Amy, Sherrod, and then Tom Papa did the ceremony. Colin did the, came up and spoke in the middle of the ceremony. He like brought on Colin towards the end.
Oh, nice.
Because Colin and Pete had become friends at that point. We all went to Ireland together. So
really?
Pete came with me. So Colin and Pete kind of hit it off because they're from the same part of Brooklyn and everything. Yeah. So he came and said some words at the end. I mean, it was a really funny wedding. I mean, it was just fun and ridiculous. So it was just all these firefighters and comedians. So it was just a shit show, you know. Did
Sherrod show up late and go long?
Of course. Absolutely. All of that. He said, you know how many guys I fucking protected? I kept away from Rachel. This fucking dumb French dude wanted to come over there and cuddle her and shit. Wanted her to play with his stupid penis. I said, beat it, Henri. Pete. How about a thank you? I kept some Rachel away from some dumb French dude's fucking dick. I was just like, oh my God. It's like, I did that for you. Thank me for my service. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, a lot. It was a lot. It was intense. I mean, when we met, like his buddy called him up and he said, how would you like to meet a semi-famous Jewish jokester? So that's how I was described as a Jewish jokester. And then I went to this FDNY Christmas party to meet him. And it was insane. I brought 3 of my friends. One of them fucked one of the other firefighters. And the next day I called her and she was like, are you going to see Backdraft again? I was like, yeah, we're supposed to go to dinner tomorrow night. She was like, oh, can you ask him something for me? So I was like, sure. She was like, can you just find out something? Because she goes, I had sex with this firefighter and we're arguing on text right now. And she was like, I just want to like solve our argument. I was like, what are you arguing with him about? She's like, well, first of all, I need you to get his name from Pete. And I was like, okay. And she was like, also, I kind of blacked out and we're trying to figure out, he's saying we did anal, but I'm saying there's no way we did anal. That's what they were arguing about.
Oh, shit. Don't you know? It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassing for the man to have to argue, my penis was in your ass and you can't tell today.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's kind of, it doesn't say anything great about his dick, but she was like, He says we did, but I don't think so. But again, yeah, if anal's on the table, I feel like anal happened. She's like, anyway, just get his name because he keeps texting, and she's like, it's gonna come up. I know.
It's gonna come up. Yes, it is gonna come up.
I would think so.
Yeah, once you open that door, they want to keep walking through that door. Actually, I don't know that that's true. I would say sometimes it's like planting a flag. You know, you want to get the anal. You've done it. Do you really want to keep doing it? It's something that
analing? Yeah, I would think it would be the conquering of that.
Yeah,
you know.
Right.
But yeah, it doesn't seem fun. But yeah, I think she was actually more worried about that not knowing his name might come up, and like she just wanted to make sure she got a hold of that so that they could get back to their argument about whether or not that anal had occurred. Yeah, that was what they had some beef about that.
The first time I fingered a girl, we were in high school. We were young high school. And I'm fooling around with her, and I put my hand down her pants. And, you know, you're so unsure that she's going to let you do it that you really they're like, you don't want to push. You don't want to go like, hey, now today you have to ask and get consent and all that. But then I was just like, I just put my hand down the front of her pants. I didn't undo her buckle or anything. and I just kept shoving my hand down. And then I fingered her. And then when I left the house, I was walking home and I smelled my finger and I realized I put my finger in her asshole. Like my first time fingering a girl was anal. And I'm almost positive it was the first time she had been fingered. So you think I was confused. She was probably confused the next time a guy put it in her vagina, like, hey, what are you doing, sicko? Wrong hole.
It's too bad that you couldn't have aired that out. But I imagine you were probably too terrified to bring up this little wacky mishap.
No, I couldn't text my friend and say, can you find out?
Right. Yeah. No, you were kind of in a pickle, weren't you?
Oh my God.
Were you like a weird high school? Were you comfortable? Were you strange? Were you socially, like when you were growing up? That's a young spry fingering. So I'm going to guess that maybe you were kind of popular.
I hung out with the crazy kids in town. I grew up in Tarrytown, which was like kind of a town where there was a GM plant and there were projects, but there was also like, I lived up on the hill where people who had more money lived. So I hung out with all the kids I hung out with the craziest, like driving down to the Bronx to get angel dust and like going to jail on Christmas because you woke up with fucking stereo equipment in your apartment that you stole the night before.
Where did you grow up?
In Tarrytown.
In Tarrytown. Okay. Yeah. I didn't hear that. All right.
And it was just so like I was the most sane kid of the crazy kids. Like I was there. Right. I was always there when it happened, but I wasn't usually. I got arrested 2 or 3 times. But
for what?
Vandalism. I shot out a car window with a slingshot. We vandalized somebody's pool. I got in a fight in a bar when I was like 16 at 3 a.m.
I can't picture you angry or fighting. Were you a young fighter?
I was very angry.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you become less angry and how?
I'm still angry. I'm still very angry.
Yeah. Most funny people are a little bit pissed off. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I sublimated a lot now, which is bad because I think that causes depression. I think that if I was smart, like I started doing martial arts when I was a teenager, I should have stuck with it because I think that was really healthy for me to get out my rage. Mm-hmm. And then, but when I got arrested, my father made me stop taking martial arts because he thought that's what caused the fight. But it's just the opposite. I think it actually gives you some restraint.
Did he have a temper?
My dad? Oh yeah. Yeah. He was like 6'1" from the Bronx, and he was a fighter. And he was where my anger came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was he proud of you when you started stand up? Did you ever talk to him about any of that stuff? Did you ever have like a reckoning with him?
Well, he died young. So like I had only started doing stand up for a couple years before he died. And so, but he was very supportive. He was really excited that I was doing it. Well, he was in entertainment. He was in radio. He was a big radio guy in New York.
Your dad? That's fascinating.
Yeah, he was on WNEW for like 20 years. And and so he used to do like, he would MC these like anytime there was like a benefit and somebody asked him to MC it, he'd throw on a tuxedo and he'd show up and he'd have like notes. He would be like writing bits and like, he was like a comedian, but like he would just shit on. He would just go up and shit on everybody. He was like a real New Yorker. He was like a ball buster.
Yeah.
And then he'd tell a couple funny jokes, like jokes. And so like, I think in his heart, he really had wanted to be a comedian, but there wasn't stand-up comedy in his day. It just wasn't an occupation that people really did. And so I think he was kind of living vicariously through me. And I used to go on his radio show and he would introduce me as America's fastest rising young comedian. And
that's so cool.
I'd promote my 1:15 spot at Stand Up New York that night.
Do you think that's part of what made you want to do it? Watching him like shuffling with his notes and getting
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's satisfying that he got to see it and got to feel proud of it.
Yeah. I'm glad he got to see it. And, and my mom is like, she comes from a family that she's also Bronx Irish. And she comes from a family where everybody's funny. Everybody's a ball buster. Yeah. Everybody's a storyteller. I mean, my family get-togethers were always, every holiday was just, 3 a.m. We would come home at 3 o'clock in the morning and we would have gone there at noon. And it was just drinking and laughing and fun and just that's my mother's side of the family. She's one of 7 and they all have, or 6, and they all have like 7 kids each. And they all live in the, New York tri-state area, all around New York, Long Island, the Bronx. And so it was like the family business in a way.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So cool that that was in your family and that they were supportive, because so many comics don't have that story. So
yeah, I know. I always feel bad for comics that have to like prove to their parents that they can make a living at this. It just.
I know. Luckily, I had no other skills, so everybody was surprised I was doing anything. So it was still a relief. It was a relief to everybody.
Did you go to college?
No, I always wanted to be one of those people that was like about to be a doctor, but I made this like noble decision to leave it for the arts, but there was no other path available to me.
Yeah.
I was just a general asshole in class and just, mocked things and imitated people. And so when I was 17, I moved to New York with this guy in his band called Dick's Sister.
Dick's Sister?
Yes. So now my mom was just outside, like, sounds terrific, in like a dashiki or something. Just like strong women rock. But nobody, when I did stand up, they were, the rest of my family, they all went to like graduate school and everything, but I was like emergency dumb in school. Like they had suction cups on my brain. They were scanning me. I remember waking up in the middle of the night one night, my parents were arguing about me and my dad was like, "She's not normal, Karen." And my mom goes, "Well, then we'll scan her again. We'll rescan her. What do you want?" I was always getting scanned.
What do you think that is? Do you think you had a learning disability? Do you have like
I had really bad ADD. Yeah. Like, and I took medicine for it, but then, I didn't really get on medicine for it till I was like 17. And then I was able to get A's and B's for like a little bit. But before that it was D's and F's and like, even from 6th grade, I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Right.
Like no idea. People would be like, they'd be like, "I'm not really ready for this exam." And I'm like, I don't know where I am. I don't know what subject. Like I knew nothing. And I was just, my hair was always wet and it would be like dripping down my back a lot. So people at school would call me wetback. Looking back, I'm like, my mom was upset because she's like, they use a racial slur. But I'm like, I think they're just trying to tell me that my back is wet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was definitely the problem in the family. It was like, what in God's name are we going to do about Rachel? But looking back, I'm also like, why didn't somebody dry my hair? It was always, it was like, it was literally just dripping down my back, like a puddle on my back, slicked back, and it was, I was always just dripping, frazzled. I really wanted to be a blonde. So I took a piece of yellow yarn and I put it on top of my head. I wanted to be Catholic so bad and blonde. So I put this yellow yarn on myself. And I would just have like yarn in my sort of Jew's nest and dripping hair. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's adorable, Rachel.
Thank you. I wasn't well. Thanks, Craig.
How do you deal with the ADD now? Do you have a hard time like finishing projects, like when you're writing on something or producing?
I lose things constantly, like wild losing,
Yeah.
Like I've lost my passport so many times. I'm on like some sort of terrorist watch list because I have like a probationary passport because they're watching me to see what I do next. So I lose a lot. I'm shedding debit cards. Like it's not good. I have little things like I have this app on my phone called Tile where all your things call each other. So you put these little stickers on all your things, my phone, my laptop.
Oh yeah. I've heard about that.
And then if I'm looking for my keys, I have my laptop, I'll just press the button on my laptop. You press it until it slowly calls all your things. So all your things call each other. So that helps.
Wow.
But that's helped me a lot. But it's like after I got COVID, it got really bad. I think 'cause there's that brain fog thing. I was not the one I didn't need that. I didn't have like the brain cells to spare at that point. Right. So that was a few weeks after I got COVID. I was worried. I was like a serious hole in the team. Like we went to eat and I remember I got really excited about the appetizer, and we were outside, on the street, how they eat outside. And I was like, when do you think the Brussels sprouts are going to be here? They look so good, And my husband was like, we just ate the Brussels sprouts. And I was like, And so I was doing stuff like that where I was like forgetting what just happened.
Yeah.
I needed like a shadow, but like the sober people get, but for my dumbness, I needed, because I was going to the wrong floor. It wasn't good.
Wow.
So that was scared me for a little bit because I'm like, I'm not the person this needs to happen to because I'll put my keys in the freezer when I go home.
Yeah, well, especially once you have a baby, then it just, I mean.
I think that's the other part of it is that now I have to keep track of all of her stuff too.
Right.
So I've got her stuff and my stuff and it's like, and my husband's more orderly, way more orderly, but he doesn't understand like little girl stuff, so like, so I've got to be in charge of all her little outfits and her things, because if he gets her dressed, he'll put like a bow in between her eyes. He puts it like right there. So she's like, he thinks you got to put a bow on a girl every day. She'll have like a t-shirt and just like a third eye bow. So I have to keep track of that.
Do you dry her hair? You make sure her hair is dry?
I do make sure her hair is combed and dried.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to not let my debilitating ADD affect her too much, but at least just give her that sense of calm that I didn't always have as kids. I'll do my best.
Right.
Because our house was it was just a crisis. My mom, it was just like everything is a crisis. And she was always trying to save somebody. My mom was always in the middle of a, catastrophe, just classic adult child of an alcoholic. Everything is a crisis that she's got to save. And I was the crisis. It was just like, what are we going to do with Rachel?
Oh my God.
I remember going to therapy when I was like 15, just dripping down my back. And the therapist, I was like, so I make my mom sad and I make my dad sad. And like, he was like, you can't really make anybody sad. And he was like, you might be okay. He was like, I think I still remember, like, he was like, no, you're smart. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm dumb. I'm a dummy. He was like, no, you're smart. And I remember two people saying that, like him saying that to me. And he was like, you just have to figure out what your life is going to be. And you don't actually make everybody sad. And they're probably a little sad separately.
Right.
But that was the first time it even occurred to me that, and he was like, also, your mornings could be a little calmer. And it's not only your fault that your hair's dripping down your back.
Right.
So he was the first one that occurred to me like, oh, I'm not the cause of everyone's problems.
Right. Wow. That's a huge, huge understanding for anybody at any age to go through, just that dependence that most people walk around with. To free yourself from that's a big load off.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that I went to him. I always want to find him and thank him. And I can't remember his last name, and then I remember in school one day, I went to this little Quaker school because they took me out of the regular high school because I was failing so badly. And it was this tiny Quaker school called Thornton Friends, and everybody called it Snorton Fiends. because it was where they sent like the bad kids, you know. We would do like whippets at lunch. I would just like bring a whippet tank and everybody would just be outside doing whippets or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at a class, it was like a history class, and I still like history, but it was a small class. It was like 6 or 8 people. So I could like pay attention and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the bathroom after the class and I was like washing my hands. And this teacher was like, you say and write smart things. And I was just like, who's she talking to? Definitely not me. I'm a slovenly pig. And I thought my best bet was like be homelish, maybe not fully.
Yeah.
Homeless,
Right.
Some kind of Grey Gardens situation.
Yeah.
She was like, no, you are, so those people, it's funny. It just takes those little markers.
Right.
Obviously my parents were also loving. They just, didn't always know how to, properly kind of figure out what I was going through or whatever. They were dealing with their own shit, maybe not so well.
Right.
But I do feel like those like people, that just sometimes it takes somebody outside your family to kind of.
Yeah, I had a creative writing teacher. I was the same way. I had all D's. I had bad ADD, literally all D's, C minuses. Yeah. And then I had this one creative writing teacher, and I did a spoof of Romeo and Juliet because we had to do a Shakespeare paper, and I did Act 2, Scene 2, the balcony scene, as set in modern day Staten Island, and with like 2 Guidos. And like he goes, this is really funny. He goes, have you considered doing this for a living? And it was like light bulb. It was like everything changed because I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. And this was like junior year of high school. And from then on, I was like, I'm going to be a writer. I didn't know that I'd be a comedian, but I knew I was going to be a writer of some sort. So anyway, listen, I got to run. I have to get somewhere, but I could talk to you all day, Rachel. I wish we had more time.
Well, this was so fun. I'm so glad we did this.
Yes. Thanks for giving me your time. I know it's very, I'm sure you're short on time these days, so I really appreciate it.
No more than anyone. I had so much fun. And I can't wait to hang again when you come back to New York.
Okay, cool. Anything you want to plug? I didn't see any dates on your site.
You could just go, you can go to my Instagram, Rachel Feinstein _. I put my dates up there. Generally, I have to update my website. So just follow me on Instagram. My dates are there. And I'm going to come out with an album soon with Jessica Kirsten. It should be out in a few weeks. It's called Call Girls, and it's a prank album that we made together. That's awesome. Got ourselves through COVID. Yeah.
Okay.
So that'll be on Sirius, and you can go to my Instagram to find out more details about Call Girls, our prank album.
All right. Awesome. All right.
Thank you again.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.